Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome. Please feel free to go ahead and introduce yourselves in the chat. It's great to have you. I already see we have some representation from across the region. I know we have St. Vincent in the building. We have Grenada. Good morning. Yeah, please feel free to let us know where your name, if you're associated with an organization, and where you are tuning in from. We'll get started in about a minute. Thank you. Great. So good morning again, everyone. Lovely to see you. My name is Danielle Walwyn, and I'm the Advocacy Officer at the Healthy Caribbean Coalition, as well as the lead of our youth arm, Healthy Caribbean Youth. It is a pleasure to see all of you here. Please feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat. We want to know your name, if you're associated with any particular organization, and of course, where you're tuning in from. A special welcome to our session, Maximizing Social Media for Advocacy, Strategies for Engagement and Impact, which is part of our overall capacity building series that we're having for our civil society organizations to support their CSO-led advocacy. And this session follows our most recent capacity building session that was focused on high-level engagement, and we'll share a recording of that session in the chat shortly. And all of these sessions have really been conceptualized by our membership. And of course, we're just bringing them to life. And so today's session, today we're living in a very fast-paced digital world. And social media isn't just a tool. We know that it's a powerful driver of change. We've seen it. For health NGOs, many of us on the call, it offers an unparalleled opportunity to amplify our voices, mobilize communities, and influence policies that shape healthier futures. But with great opportunity comes the need for strategy. How do we cut through the noise? How do we move beyond likes and shares to real engagement and impact, especially for us in the advocacy space? And today we're going to be talking about a few of those key approaches. We're going to be talking about a few of those key approaches to really help us not only raise awareness, but drive actions, whether it's advocating for policy change or promoting healthier lifestyles. I know our work, especially representing those who are here, spans a number of different sectors. And so again, we're really excited to have you here and really excited to give you some tools and tips and tricks to help you on using and utilizing social media strategically, especially for us in the non-communicable disease space. It's a really great tool to really think about how we can use meaningfully ahead of major advocacy timestamps that are happening this year, including the UN high-level meeting on NCDs and mental health. So these are objectives today, which I think all of you are familiar with. And so I'm actually going to stop speaking at the moment and introduce to you our moderator for today, Ms. Elena Gomes, who is Healthy Caribbean Youth member, as well as a team member of the advisory committee within Healthy Caribbean Youth. And she's going to take us through the rest of the program. Elena, over to you.
Thank you, Danielle. Good morning, everybody, and thank you so much for coming on. It's great to see so many people being interested in this particular workshop, so this is great. We will have about 3 speakers this morning. The first one is going to be Ms. Sheena Warner-Edwards, the Communications Officer for HCC and the Social Media Manager. And she's going to be speaking a little bit about what is going on with Meta, an overview of the key Meta changes that I think all of us should be aware of if we're trying to make sure that our advocacy is as impactful as we want it to be. And so Sheena, I hope you are ready to start us off because we're ready to hear from you.
Good morning, everyone. And again, as hold on, right, as Elena mentioned, I'll start off by at least identifying where we are in terms of the meta changes that would have occurred of recent. Just let me know if you're seeing the presentation. Yeah,
Still
no,
loading on
still
my end,
loading.
at least. Yeah. Oh, it's up now.
Right, hold on. Let me start. Let me make sure again. Not that one. This one. Right. Messaging across.
Still loading.
Yeah, still loading.
Yeah, it should be up soon. Or what? Well, yeah, okay, up now.
But you're seeing much further into the slides, are you?
Yes, we are.
It should be. Hold on.
Your presentation is getting excited.
Yes, it is.
Share the information with
Clearly.
us. Yeah.
Hold on. Because I'm seeing something totally different to what you are seeing or what I'm seeing on the screen. So, let's see. There now?
Yes.
Good. Okay.
We're good to go.
So I will be speaking about all of the meta changes really that have been occurring. And by meta, we mean both Facebook and Instagram. Since, well, meta also includes WhatsApp. But what it is basically is that all of these social media platforms are now falling under the meta umbrella. So first, we want to go through again, and it comes up all the time. Persons or organizations may not have enough resources, human resources, to span the full social media range. So we always get questions as to, how many times they should post on each platform. And this is the 2025 revised version of the ideal posting frequency on social media. So most CSOs would have Facebook or Instagram. Some may be on X or LinkedIn. And for Facebook, the new posting frequency is now 1 to 2 times per day. And what this allows is you would hear a number of persons mention something about algorithms. And what the algorithms do is more or less control what your followers would see at any given time. So even you may post a story, you may post a graphic card at a particular time, but it may not mean that everyone who is your follower or who's following you at the time may see your post. So how the algorithm, it goes up and down. It sometimes sends content into spam spaces. But what you would ideally want is that your algorithms remain at the optimum level to allow all of your followers to see your content when you do post it. So in terms of Instagram, out of the changes that would have occurred on Meta, the most, I would say, frequent changes have occurred in the Instagram space. So I have like more or less what we were talking about in terms of SEOs. So we were talking about search engine optimization. These are big terms, but these are the words or the keywords more or less that persons can use to find your content if they do not see it as you are posting it. So keywords such as maybe health as a keyword throughout across the whole social media space. If some person types in the word health, in their search engine, like the little, what you'll call little magnifying glass. So you're searching for health content or public health content or nutrition content, then it would direct you to that list or that frame of content posted by anyone who uses maybe in a hashtag or within their caption the word health or nutrition. So that's when you see that word search engine optimization, SEO keywords. That's what that refers to. You may have, again, carousel posts or reels. You also have static posts, which would be a graphic card. So the old Instagram would allow for, it went from one phase. So you went from posting of graphic cards, and then it moved to posting of reels. So reels or videos became most relevant at one point. So persons who were just posting graphic cards were being, I would say, ostracized. They were being pushed into the spam space as opposed to a video. That has been a major change now in 2025, where they're asking, well, Meta has asked you to more or less stick to a 40-30 ratio, 40-30-20 ratio. So you do 40% of reels or videos, you do a 30% of carousel posts, which are a series of posts that more or less tell a story. And then you can do your graphic cards in your 20%. So carousel posts and reels are now ideal. Once you post those, it pushes you up the ladder, more or less, and into a space of the viewership space where not only your followers will be seeing, but also persons who do not follow you. And that also increases then persons to view your pages or, click and follow you for ongoing content and interest. Another major change has been the uses of collaborations. So prior, we would see, they used to say, well, let's avoid collaborations with other entities, because then that too would push you into a spam space. But of recent, they're encouraging you to use at least 1 to 4 collaborations. So that would mean partnering with other organizations who are like-minded to push or tell your story. So you may have a communication campaign that's ongoing, and what you will do is tag your partners to collaborate. So then the content, when posted, is also shown on their social media platforms. And another big one has been the shares versus saves. So what we've seen is that shares. So if an individual, an organization reshares your content, then that pushes you up the ladder again in terms of the algorithm space. So the more shares you get for your content, the more people will see. In terms of reels, so reels and reels videos, what they have advocated for is that you post at least 30 to 40 seconds in terms of reels. That has been a major change in the Instagram space. Now they do allow you to post up to 1 minute of reel video time, but 30 to 40-second videos or reels do best in that space. And they want you to tell a story. Again, you want most likes, so your engagement, which includes likes and shares, those are things that increase your engagement. Ideally, in terms of hashtags, I know before, and that's another thing, we used to have 10 hashtags because you wanted to, increase your probability of being viewed in the Instagram or in the meta space. Now they're asking you to post 2 to 5 per post in terms of your hashtags, relevant hashtags, because persons use those hashtags as well to follow your content. And then 4 to 8 reels per week, 1 to 2 carousel posts per week, 1 to 2 collaborations per week, and 2 to 3 single images per week. And of course, in your stories, Meta has asked that you post maximum 3 stories. I know that that particular one is quite difficult, even for us as HCC, as we try to span all our CSO content. It's quite difficult to maintain a 1 to 3 ratio in your stories. And then it pushes you into a spam space in terms of your algorithms. So the latest Instagram news, as I mentioned, you can post now up to 1 to 3 minutes in length of a reel, but the ideal still remains 30 to 40 seconds. Because most people, in terms of their watch time, most people actually view a reel or a video for 10 seconds, if you believe it. Unless they have a real keen interest, it's literally 10 seconds and they're moving on to the next thing. So you try to get your relevant content in your earlier part of your reels or your videos, because viewership time is very, very limited. So again, recommendation, 7 to 15 seconds for trending audio reels. So you'll see there are various types of audio, whether it is in terms of sounds that you can use, music within your reel space, or something that is trending. You've seen of recent, especially, there have been several trending type of reels that persons can use and have, your CSO members replicate or your youth members replicate. And those are 7 to 15 seconds, 20 to 40 seconds in terms of tutorials or news updates, entertainment pieces, and then 50 to 90 seconds in terms of highly engaging stories. So, and this may fall more within your communication campaign line. So you have engaging stories which tell about, a story about a healthy food policy, testimonials, which are doing quite well. You can look to have a maximum of 90 seconds where that is concerned. Another major change, and this is very, very recent. This was of January of this year. Instagram more or less changed the way how their grid will formulate. So instead of the square type post, which was a 1080 by 1080, they are now doing a 1080 by 1350. So instead of the horizontal kind of shooting, again, in terms of your videos or your photos, they're asking you to do a vertical shot, which is more an upward standing shot to fit into their grid, a 4:5 ratio. One, in terms of Meta now, Meta, and that's, we're looking at the Facebook changes. Most of us would do communication campaigns and perhaps use boosting to promote our content. So within the last, I would have to say, within the election year of the US, we've had some major changes on the Facebook platform with respect to what you can post, how you post it, and anything relative to social content, anything that speaks to laws, certain keywords, laws, policy, government. These words have been flagged in the Facebook space. So Meta has now asked that persons who are doing these kinds of ads be authorized to do so. And in that authorization, it means submitting your national identification card to the Meta platform for verification purposes. And then you would have to ideally highlight the countries in which you are hoping to do those ads or promote those ads towards the persons in those countries in that space. So that has been a major change by Facebook. And then we've also, in terms of these kind of pop-up ads. So if you did get an alert with respect to an ad not being able to run or can't run and having, asking you to confirm your identity, it's important to not try to reboost or create that ad unless this particular confirmation of identification is, complete. Because what it does is then flags to Meta that you're disobeying their rules, and they can then either shut your page down completely. We've seen that. You get warnings, pre-warnings, but that has happened to some persons, and where the entire page literally is deleted. So you want to avoid that at all costs. So, and if you do get a message of this nature, you want to follow the steps and, reach out to one of the Meta assistants and, give them the necessary information that they will request. So some reminders. So again, it is important for us to understand in the space of utilizing social media, especially the Meta space, understanding your audience. So you need to understand, where they're located. Are they on Instagram? Are they in the Facebook space? Are they on X? And again, identify the various demographics. So you're looking at the age of your followers, the overall age. In some cases, you may have 30 to 40-year-olds who are following you, as opposed to 50 to 60-year-olds. So those are the kinds of things that you would want to see, because then that would help you in terms of crafting your messages, who you're speaking to, who's your target audience. But I always say, you never stretch yourself too thin. We are aware that most CSOs would have one or two persons, or sometimes no one at all, who can engage with social media. And we don't want that you go and, you set up on 5 or 6 social media platforms, but then you're unable to maintain content, because as said previously, those posting schedules are necessary if you will remain relevant in the space. So then in terms of your communication, your overall communication, in terms of using social media and Meta, we always start with our communication strategies. Now, this then allows you to create the kind of content that is needed that your audience will engage with at a high level. So you want to first look at who you're targeting. You want to identify, your key messages. What is it that you want to, whether it's give or you want your audience to understand. So you're looking at using various tools, again, to get that message out. So social media would be one of those tools, but you also have your offline tools. So you have your petitions, you have your newsletters, your magazines. And again, for us, we use two in terms of social media key messages we would use in terms of following maybe radio programs. What is it that the audiences are speaking about with respect to health policies or health space? We look at, or we have monitoring tools where we do media monitoring. So we're checking literally our media daily, or so our newspaper, online and print, to see what are the key issues, things that people want to hear that will be relevant. And that is the kind of information that will then help you to craft your content for your social media platforms. So for HCC, we are on Instagram, we use Facebook, we use X and LinkedIn, but we are also still utilizing our website, our YouTube, our newsletter roundup, our email blast, and our webinars to get our messages out. So I would always say you do not throw away your traditional media because people get their news in different places, and you would want to be in most of those places in order to reach your audience. And of course, if you have some form of funding, at least $10 that you can boost your content, that is recommended. So again, using social media, you want to create unique content with images that are relevant to your CSOs or a key issue. It may be a key issue that may arise, but you also want to make sure that your graphics, your videos are clean, because again, if they aren't, Meta tends to push that kind of content into spam. So these are the things that you have to be cognizant of in terms of creating content. Don't be daunted, but definitely cognizant of. Make sure that your content is of the best and the highest quality each and every time that you post. In terms of, I spoke about in terms of the offline space, I went over that. And I also mentioned, so one thing I will pull out here is the influencers. So if you're posting content, remember you can tag people. So tagging persons, again, pushes your content in a particular space that those persons can see it. So you can tag your influencers, your champions, decision makers, policy makers. You can tag the media, because your job is to make sure that as many people see what you are posting and at all times. And then using, again, influencers can be local media representatives, can be youth leaders, but you want to use key persons that will increase your engagement. And I mentioned again, in terms of using your social media comments, and so to create worthy content, again, that is very, very important, because what it is creating a timely hook. And timely hook is, what's the buzz? What's the buzz on the ground? And that then goes into the social media space and increases the opportunity for persons to see your content. And don't always post about yourselves. Also repost other content from other like-minded persons, because that too increases your engagement of all times. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you so much, Sheena. This is a very comprehensive presentation. And I think that we learned a lot here regarding how social media is ever changing. I know we had a couple questions that we'll address in the Q&A a bit later, but I know people were a bit concerned about the ever-changing aspects of social media. But just some key takeaways from what you said based on the advice. It's important for us to kind of, and from what I heard from you, kind of use a holistic approach. So use multiple platforms, not too many to overload yourself, especially if you don't have a whole team, social media team to manage that, as well as trying to incorporate collaborations, reels, carousels, and everything else in regards to Instagram. And I think that everybody will be interested to hear what your advice is later down during the Q&A, because your presentation was very good, really good. Okay, thank you so much, Sheena. We're moving on to our next presenter, which is Miss Amy Sampath, and she'll be speaking on the power of youth and exploring key strategies to support content creation regarding the youth. Amy, are you here with us?
Hi, good morning. Please let me know if you are seeing my screen.
Yes, it's up.
Okay, great. So again, my name is Amy Sampath. I will be presenting on the power of youth and strategies to support content creation. So let's dive right in. So involving our youth and volunteers in content creation is a powerful strategy which can help an organization to expand their reach, fosters creativity, and also deepen its community engagement. Now, we believe that youths are able to offer a unique perspective and digital expertise that we may lack as older folks in our organization. So some key advantages of incorporating our youth in content creation includes increased digital reach and engagement. Often their content appeals to younger audiences, which can increase our online engagement. They can offer fresh and innovative perspectives. So normally youth-led content tends to be more relatable and engaging for their demographic. So that's the point of getting them involved. They offer authenticity and peer-to-peer influence. So young people, they normally trust content created by their peers rather than traditional marketing. And they can also communicate in a language and style that feels more natural to their age group. Fourthly, their skill development and leadership growth. It often builds their confidence and leadership in youth volunteers. And lastly, it creates a stronger community impact. Youth involvement increases the organization's credibility and revenue. It can also foster long-term engagement, and it ensures a pipeline of future advocates later down. Now, strategies to support our youth in content creation. Now, a lot of them, we tend to find them being hesitant to want to come on board and be part of our organization. So some things we have to put in place to encourage them to become content creators and put themselves out there as well. So one, by providing training and mentorship. Many young volunteers, they have the enthusiasm to create content, but they may lack the technical skills or confidence. So by providing this structured training, it helps them to become more effective communicators and advocates. Secondly, by creating collaborative spaces, our youth, they thrive in environments where they can exchange ideas and get feedback and work together. So providing these accessible and engaging platforms fosters their teamwork and also sustains their involvement within our organizations. Also, by leveraging real-world events, this pertains to providing them with their hands-on opportunities at real-life events. So this can help our youth by applying their skills in a practical setting while boosting engagement and visibility for the organization. And lastly, to recognize and reward these contributions. Acknowledging their efforts keeps them motivated, engaged, and excited to continue contributing. This can mean by offering them certificates or awards or prizes or even stipends if you're able to. Now, I'm just going to touch very quickly on some youth-led content here that we have done at the Diabetes Association of Trinidad and Tobago. And just before I even get into it, we have noticed that this youth-led content has been major in terms of growing our accounts and our reach in general. So our youth-led content normally derives from our sixth form internship. So we run an internship from July, August, and with 36 students, which are selected from a group of hundreds of applicants. So our sixth form internship is a program which students can gain valuable skills in content creation, event coordination, public health awareness, all those sorts of things, where we encourage them to become advocates. So last year, actually, our students, they were given three projects actually, in which we changed to social media. So one included our continuous glucose project, our education project, and our healthy school environment project. Now, our continuous glucose monitor project consisted of dozens of videos, images, all sorts of different things. And this project lasted around 11 days, and it reached more than 100,000 persons within Trinidad and Tobago. From all of our videos, which were posted on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, we achieved more than 184,000 views and more than 6,000 likes. Now, this is some of the feedback we received from social media. So again, it shows and it gives you that relevance of our youths in our social media landscape. Again, to the education project, we split up our students into groups, and we provided them with different topics in which they were tasked to create 4 graphics and 4 videos. So at the top, you can see these 3 different topics that they were given: trans fat, artificial sweeteners, and PCOS. So our students, they would have created many different infographics, as you can see there, in addition to videos for this project. And also, we have our Healthy School Environment Survey. As part of our internships, our interns conducted this survey to gather insights from students currently enrolled in secondary school. Now, one key thing in order to maximize participation in this survey, we encourage our interns to share on their social media platforms as well to boost that wider outreach. Now, to further boost engagement, we introduced a friendly competition, which allowed our survey participants to select which group they heard from. So if it was group 1, group 2, group 3. And the group with the most completed surveys won a prize, fostering excitement and teamwork amongst our interns. Now, this in particular, I would say that it highlighted the power of a youth-driven outreach, because it revealed that our interns, they thrived in that competitive environment. Like, they wanted to win and ensure, and they did everything that they could have to ensure that their group won this competition. Now, from our internship, our social media trends, our engagement data showed that TikTok and Instagram generated significantly higher interaction compared to Facebook. This is largely because TikTok and Instagram cater to younger audiences who are more active on these platforms, while Facebook has an older user base. Now, additionally, short-form videos, reels, and interactive features on TikTok and Instagram make content more engageable and shareable, unlike Facebook, which relies more on static posts. And I think our youths, that's what they generate and they are interested in. TikTok's powerful algorithm also boosts organic content delivery, making it easier for our posts to go viral. Whereas on Facebook, you have to boost it and you have to ensure that you pay for it. Whereas if you create those videos on TikTok, it grows viral on its own. Right, so this brings me to the end of my presentation. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Amy. That was fantastic. I was particularly, pleasantly shocked at the very high number of engagement that you would have gotten for one of the projects you would have done. I think you said over 100,000 shares or something like that, or interactions with it. Okay, I think Amy came off, but yes, just some key takeaways. The power of youth is incredibly important. And clearly, as we could see through Amy's research, that if we include the youth in our posts and other social media strategies, it can greatly influence the likability of the post and the possibility of people actually following what the post says. Okay, thanks again, Amy. Just so that we know, Amy is the marketing assistant for the Diabetes Association of Trinidad and Tobago. And now we're actually moving on to Abby Bejo, the founder and director of programs at Lake Health and Wellbeing. And Abby will be speaking on harnessing the power of social media, maximizing impact, and documenting success. Welcome, Abby.
Hello, good morning. So just checking if y'all can see my slides so far.
Yes, we can see it clearly.
Okay, great. So I'm just gonna put it into presenter mode. Oh, did it disappear?
Yes,
Sorry.
come off for a minute. Yes.
Sorry, technical glitch. Talk amongst yourselves.
It's back up.
Okay, great. Sorry, I'm having some, okay. Okay, all right, wonderful. All right, so good morning, everyone. And thank you so much for the introduction and also the opportunity to present to you all today. So, oh, it's disappeared again. Why is it disappearing? It's disappeared for me. I don't know if it's disappeared for you. Okay.
No, we
All
still
right.
see it.
Okay. So thank you for the opportunity to present to you all today. So I'm going to be talking about harnessing the power of social media and focusing specifically on maximizing impact and documenting success and what we have learned. So what I will do first is I'll tell you a little bit about us. I'll move on to maximizing impact and then talk about documenting success. So with documenting success, I'm going to speak about two things. I'm going to speak about the monitoring and evaluation, and then I'm also going to talk about how you can use social media to visibly document your achievements. So in terms of who we are, so we're a public health NGO based in St. Kitts and Nevis, and our aim is to improve the health and well-being of our local, regional, and online communities. And primarily, we focus on non-communicable diseases because obviously that is the major public health challenge in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. So in order to tackle some of the issues that I mentioned, which is non-communicable diseases, we do research to identify gaps, we advocate for evidence-based policies and interventions, we carry out health education events to empower the public to make informed choices about their health, and we also implement public health interventions in the community to address gaps and provide support and bring about change. And so these are just some logos and images of some of the projects that we're currently implementing. So social media is a really important part of the work that we do. But when we're thinking about maximizing impact, we had to actually take a step back and ask ourselves some very important questions. And so Sheena would have covered a lot of this, but I hope it's still going to be useful. So what we had to ask ourselves is like, what are we really trying to do with social media? What do we want to get out of social media? Being a small organization, we had to sit back and really think about this because we need to be more focused. What we found is that we were very easily getting distracted by all the trends, the health days, trying to keep up with algorithms and all of this kind of things and just getting bogged down in a lot of things. And the question that we had to ask ourselves was, is all this social media activity really having the impact that we would want and desire? And in a lot of the cases, the answer was no. So we had to try and be a bit more strategic and just to make sure that everything aligns with our objectives and everything that we do is moving us forward in some way, shape, or form. And also being a very small team, like Sheena would have said, we have to make the best use of our time. Social media is very fast-paced, and for a small organization, it's very hard to keep up. And so we have to really try and see how we can get more focused, more strategic, and make the best use of our time. So for us, what we have tried to do is just really try and think about it. So what are we doing? So we're trying to inform the public about the work that we're doing, the work that our partners are doing. And so this is an example on the left right here. So here's just a quick update. We're informing everybody about some work that we've been doing with some of our partners. People like these types of posts, like to see what we're doing, like to see what we're doing with other organizations. And we tend to get the most engagement from these types of posts. So that's informing. We also use social media to educate the public about the issues that we're most concerned about. And so, for example, this is a post about sugar sweetened beverages and some new research that was published. And so we use social media to sort of educate persons about the topics that we're most interested in. And of course, what's most relevant for today is we also use social media to advocate for change. So whether that's policy change, whether that's behavior change amongst the public, we use it to advocate. And so this is just an example on the right of where we are using social media to advocate. And in this case, we're encouraging the government to think about SSB taxation as part of their sustainable island state agenda. And so what we do is that for us, what we did here was that we are trying to align with a government strategy, which is the sustainable island state agenda, with our policy ask, which is SSB taxation. And in doing so, we tag the relevant policymakers. So that would be our Prime Minister and the Minister for Health, also the Honorable Clark, who is the Minister for the Environment and responsible for the Sustainable Island State Agenda, create a nice graphic, but then we also link back to our blog where we've written a whole article about it, and then we also have a downloadable of a PDF where we've also written a document around that particular issue. So we're using social media to advocate. So that's the first point, is really trying to understand what is it that you're trying to get out of social media. Being that you're a small organization, you don't have a lot of time, how can you be more strategic and more focused? We also then have to think about what platforms are most effective. So we're too small to be everywhere. So we have reviewed the different platforms, and what works for us is Facebook, Instagram, and also WhatsApp. So with WhatsApp, we have groups for a lot of the different projects that we have ongoing. So we have a WhatsApp group for our Women's Health Project. We have a WhatsApp group for our NCD Alliance. We have a WhatsApp group for different projects. And some groups are more active than others, but the benefit is that it allows us to have a direct in with our target group, and we have found that to be very helpful. We're still testing out LinkedIn to see how that's going to work for us, but for St. Kitts and Nevis, X or Twitter is a no-no. Not many people are very active on Twitter or X, as it's now known, so we basically just decided to leave that alone. And to be honest, we don't have the manpower yet to go into any other platforms. So what I found really useful is this graphic, and I think Sheena would have presented something similar. And if you're trying to choose the right social media platform for you, these are some of the considerations that you might want to think about. So who is your audience? How can you reach them? And what are your goals? And I like this infographic because it goes through every single one, some of the main social media platforms. It highlights, what the demographic is for each of those platforms, the purpose of those platforms. So you can see Facebook is more for building relationships. What it's best for, it's best for building brand loyalty. And then it also gives you the downsides. And so I think you'll be getting a copy of these slides. And so what you can do is have a look and sort of use this tool to kind of help you make that decision as to what is best for you and your organization. So we also had to ask ourselves, how can we manage social media and manage it well? And I think the only way that you can do that is to have some type of strategy. I don't think it needs to be any sort of huge comprehensive strategy, but you do have to have some type of strategy that covers not just the implementation. So not just how are you going to appear on social media, what are the things that you need to do, but also looking at how you're going to monitor and evaluate your social media activity and see if it's actually having the impact that you desire. I think it's also important to have a budget for social media and some resource behind it, because it is very time consuming. And we have found that, sometimes in the past, we've had to have our advocacy officers or various other people come off some work to try and create some social media content. And I don't really think that that's very sustainable. So we've had to put some budget in to hire a part-time social media officer. He does just a few hours a week. And that has been really useful having someone dedicated to our social media. We also have to have a budget for social media. So that means paying the person as well, the social media officer, but also having a budget for social media advertising. Because I think particularly with Facebook, you really do have to boost those posts to really get the reach that you want. So I think this question is really about just having a structure, a strategy, a budget, and being able to implement effectively based on the resources that you have. And then the question you also have to ask, is social media the best way to reach our audience? I know we had to ask this question, and in some cases it's not. I mean, you really have to get out there into the public and meet people where they are. You might have to go to those meetings, you have to write those press releases, you have to write that policy, you have to meet people eyeball to eyeball, because at times people really want to sit down and talk to you. So social media really should be an amplification and sort of like, well, for us anyway, speak for ourselves, the amplification of your messaging. It's sort of almost the icing on the cake. It does allow you to reach a huge audience if done properly, but it's not the end all or the be all. It should be part of a communication strategy and just a single part of that. Whilst you're doing everything else, you're also doing social media. Other things that we've had to consider is consistency. So I think I feel like it's either you're in or you're out. So you have to be very consistent. I don't think you can be inconsistent if you decided to commit to social media. So the thing is, we cannot, definitely cannot meet the requirements of Meta of posting, however, 1 to 2 times a day. I mean, realistically, we just can't do that because we don't have the manpower. So for us, we've just decided that we're going to post at least 3 times a week on all the platforms that we work on, except for WhatsApp. I think we probably put them. But for Facebook and Instagram, at least three times a week, because that's what we can do. If you all can do more, then I think that's fine. But for us, we have to be realistic and manage our time. So for consistency, it's at least 3 times a week for us. As Sheila would have mentioned, I think you just have to really get to grips with the content, really making some good content, and not just good content, but useful content for your audience. And I think remembering your NGO's mission, like what is it that you're trying to achieve, and making sure that whatever you're doing on social media aligns with your mission. And I think we also have to remember why people are on social media. I think the operative word is the social. People are trying to connect, develop relationships, they're trying to have a bit of fun. And so I think remembering all of those things will also help you to maximize your impact. So now I'm going to quickly move on to documenting success. And so what we've done with documenting success is actually 2 things. One is the obvious, which is monitoring and evaluating our social media activity. So what this has done is it's helped us to understand what is working so that we can improve, but it's also helped us to understand our impact. So in terms of monitoring and evaluation of what that could look like, for us, simply tracking our social media reach and engagement, we do that. So we try to understand how many people we've reached, and you can look at all this information in the back end of social media, so Facebook, Meta. So your reach, your engagement, how many people like your posts, all that good stuff. So that's useful because it allows you to see sort of the quantity. So, I'm reaching 100,000 people, and that's great because you do want to reach as many people as possible. But I think from an advocacy point of view, you want to go down a little bit deeper and understand, okay, so all these people are seeing my content, but what are they doing with that information? Does that information have an impact? And so that's where we now try to look at the impact of our digital advocacy. So an example of this is with our You're Sweet Enough project, where we measured impact through a public opinion survey. So we did a survey before we started and a survey after we started. And this allowed us to get some really useful information. So we probably can't really see it too well, but we were able to look at where people were finding us and interacting with our content. You can't see it too well, but Facebook was sort of one of the frontliners. But what surprised us the most was that people were actually hearing our content and listening to us on the radio. So that actually was an eye-opener for us and made us realize that we cannot neglect other forms of media. So the radio, it was a really powerful tool for us. And so we kind of, in a sense, have to try and pivot a little bit to make sure that we have some good content on the radio as well. But through our survey, though, we're able to show that over half of our survey population had seen our campaign, which is great. We kind of knew that from, I guess, social media. But what was interesting for us was that 79% of people who saw our campaign said it improved their knowledge of the link between SSBs and consumption. SSB consumption and obesity and NCDs. And then 78% of people who saw the campaign said it influenced them to reduce their SSB consumption. So what's that shown us is that our campaign not only was seen by a significant number of people, it educated them, but then it also provided them with an intent to change their behavior, which is what we want to see, as well as obviously the policy change. But this was good in terms of the public behavior. So that's monitoring and evaluation. But also in terms of documenting success, we also use social media to visibly document our work. So what this does, it helps us to create a visible track record out there in the ether. It helps to build our credibility. People are seeing the work that we're doing. They know that we can deliver. They know how we deliver. And we have to remember that actually social media is the first place that people are going to look when they try to find out more about you. And when I say people, that's funders, potential partners, and the public. So in essence, you do want somewhere where you have a nice track record to attract potential funders, to attract potential partners as well. And so this is an example of how we've kind of used social media to visibly document our work. So this is our menstrual health project. So we went into a phase 2 of the project. And what we did with social media was that we brought the public along every step of the way for phase 2. So here is a first sort of announcement which said, yay, hi, everyone. We've just got funding for the next phase of our project. This has been great. We've had a great phase 1. We've now secured funding for the next phase. And in this, we tag the funder, which they love, and we tag our key partner, the Department of Gender Affairs. Then the next post is now we're going out to meet stakeholders for the next phase. So this is a post saying, hey, everyone, we've now met with the Department of Sport to discuss menstruation and sport. We're looking forward to working with them. So we're sort of bringing people on along with us. Then we say, hey, everyone, we've now launched the menstrual health phase 2. So this is where we had a launch. We had the Minister for Health and Leavers, the Permanent Secretary at the Ministry of Education. So we're able to show you that we're launching, we're doing things, we're engaging with key stakeholders, we're engaging with high profile people on topics and issues that are of interest. Then this is here where we're now training guidance counselors around menstrual health. This is one of our menstrual health educators out in the public. This is us doing a podcast on menstrual health, and then us receiving some menstrual health products for donation as it relates to our project. So I'm running out of time, so I'm going to quickly wrap up by saying social media can be a powerful tool for advocacy. It just requires a strategic approach so that we can all maintain focus, and that means aims, objectives, planning, selecting the most effective platform, having a budget, and of course, social media must be part of a wider communication strategy. So thank you so much for your attention, and obviously I'm very happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you so much for that, Abby. We really appreciated you presenting today on how social media can be such a powerful tool. And I think that you just telling us that, you know what, we need to have the right social media platform, a strategy, resources, a budget, which is very important, our main ways that we can maximize impact is great. And also reminding us that sometimes social media is not the only way. We need to try to reach people, meet people where they are. And if some people aren't big social media users, we have to go out in the street and speak to them or speak on the radio or something like that. So thank you so much for that information. We are going on to the Q&A portion of the of the webinar. We have about 7 more minutes left, so hopefully we can fit in all the questions within the 7 minutes. But earlier up, we did have a question for you, Sheena, on how frequently does this advice change as it regards to what we should post on different social media platforms, how often, what's going to grab the audience, how frequently does this change, and are these resources are there resources available for us to keep up with this information?
So I saw the question and I smiled. The reality is that this Meta, X, all these platforms, they literally can change overnight. What we've been monitoring over, I would say, the last 2 years, mostly the last 2 years, is that there have been many, many changes in the Meta space. And it was literally you wake up one morning and there's a news flash, literally, that there is a change on Meta. Many cases they actually would send you information. So I would get literally a direct message from Meta identifying the changes, or you would see it in mainstream media. So it actually will be a topical, whether it's a news feed, on socials or in print media, it will be a headline. And you will see that there are changes being made to Meta or forecasted changes being made. I saw the second question in terms of where you can see or get an idea of the kinds of changes that are being made. And those are made available. I mean, they're online, or you would get something, you may see a pop-up, or there's sometimes little pop-up ads on Facebook, especially, that you have to pay attention to. So they've been telling you, we've made this change. Here is more, click here for more information on the change. So it's just a case of monitoring, especially if you're on social media often, monitoring the kinds of messages that you get. So you have to check your inboxes often. I know many people don't look into their inboxes. You have to check your inboxes because they do tell you when the change occurs. But in most cases, it is broadcasted quite widely. And I also share a little, well, some of the news bites that we get. So GHAI has been incredible in terms of following up when these changes occur, and I rely heavily on Jill because they literally will send us as well, to notify us that the changes have occurred. So I'm going to share a few resources that I have with respect to that.
Thank you so much. Does anybody else on the panel want to kind of touch on that before we go quickly to the last question? No? Okay, so we'll move on to the next question. And I think it would be great if both Amy and Abby could give their perspective on this just before we close off. But the question was, what advice would you give to someone who is unfamiliar with the social media space, but wants to use it for health advocacy?
So the advice that I would give is, I guess similar to what I was saying in my presentation. So really understand, like, what is it that you want to get out of that social media? So if you're using it for health advocacy, what is it that you want to achieve? Are you targeting policymakers? Are you targeting the public? And really tighten that up and understand what it is that you want to do and achieve with social media. So if you're running a project, I always try my best not to post about a project too early, for example. So I like to have the project progress a little bit, get some interesting content from that project that we could post. So I would say, like, don't be too eager to sort of start and post on social media. Start delivering your project, understanding what the key messages are, understanding what you want to achieve, then develop a strategy for social media to get the key messages about your project out there. And then I think, in a sense, you do have to sort of almost do trial and error. So you have to test out the different platforms to kind of see what works for you. So as I said, Facebook works for us, Instagram works for us. Also, depending on what your capabilities and your resources are as well, that will determine which platforms and how many platforms that you can actually use and utilize to the benefit of your project. So I hope that's helpful. Maybe Amy would like to add. Sheena.
Sorry, Amy, would you like to add? Thank you, Abby.
I think one other key important factor to consider is your demographics, because you do need to know what age group you are targeting to know what social media to select. So I think that was the only extra tidbit I had to add to that.
And the very last, well, I think it falls in line with this, is from the same person, just in relation to the algorithm rules that were described earlier regarding IG. Anybody want to just kind of give maybe a quick tip on the algorithm rules if you're really trying to target a specific audience about something, a quick tip about how you can make the algorithm work for you?
Maybe not a quick tip, but so we recently used the collaboration feature, and I thought it was fantastic. So we collaborated with a stakeholder. So using Instagram's collaboration feature, and I have to admit, I was really impressed. It allowed us to reach a much wider audience because it meant we could reach their audience. And so we had people engaging with us that don't normally engage with us. So I think maybe using that type of feature can be really useful. So that's a tip that we recently sort of were able to utilize. So that collaboration feature.
Dr. Connell's hand is up.
Sorry, I was multitasking. No, I just have a question, and this is wearing an academic hat. So more and more academies are allowing for career progression using social media. You just have to provide the evidence as you would for publication or any other academic product. Do you have any advice for maybe academics out there who are listening, some of whom I know are on the call, how they can collate this information? Obviously, this is easy to put in your electronic CV. You just put the links to all the various products. But the analytics, believe it or not, I know institutions like Columbia and Yale, they look quite closely at the analytics as compared to like impact factors for journals. So any comments on that? And great presentation. I felt lost at some points, but it was great to be in the position of some patients when they're speaking to a doctor as well.
Thank you. But I can go first in terms of, well, one, so the algorithms are connected to engagement. Engagement we monitor through two sources. So Meta provides a number of key tools that you can use to track how your content is, how it's progressing from the time that you post it. There are also some other tools that those particular academic institutions, some have invested in. They're quite expensive. In terms of one, it's called Sprout. So Sprout gives you literally all of your engagement, reach, every different item that would help you to understand how your content is performing. It gives you a printout for each post that you would put out, whether it's a video, a reel, or a post. And that kind of information, literally it tracks, the algorithm is tracked via these particular tools. So it's pretty easy if you can access those tools. Meta and through Facebook offers many of them for free. So you can click on them and see what your engagement is, to see what your reach is. And of course, once you're putting any kind of money behind your content posts, that would increase all of your engagement. So then you can see, how best your content is performing, whether it is a link, whether it is a study, whether it is a graphic card, whether you're in a communication campaign style and you're posting videos, you can retrieve your information with respect to engagement and track the progress of that content. And that would help you then to make certain decisions with respect to, what you post on social media, but also how interesting that content is to persons in the wider social media space.
Dr. Carter, let me just clarify. So your question was how you could collate this information in case you wanted to publish about
almost like references.
Okay. So in terms of so some of the work that we've done, if I'm understanding the question correctly, is we've tried to collect quantitative and qualitative data. So with the quantitative data, that is simply just all the information that Meta would provide, and then with the qualitative data that we've literally gone out to interview people or to carry out surveys with the public to understand what, if they have seen us on social media, what impact that has had on them, did it change their behavior, all of that. And then we've prepared reports, and then we've also prepared infographics about that. So I don't know if that's the gist of your question.
Thanks so much. That's very useful, and apologies for my audio as I'm walking outside. But I think that you've hit the nail on the head there. It's not just providing the metrics that the analytics you can get, but you also have to prove impact.
Yes.
And more assessment committees in academia are looking for that impact. I don't know if there are any resources you can maybe direct me to at the end of the webinar to use. I mean, it's a risky area of scholarship, obviously, because some institutions don't even recognize it, right? I'm not going to say anything about the UWI, but we're slowly getting there. And it would be useful to have some reference to use, even as we craft this.
style of scholarship.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Connell. Okay, I don't think we have any more questions, but just as Dr. Connell was saying, if anybody has any resources that they would like to share in the chat, that would be great, so that we can have that disseminated later along with the one-pager of information that would collate everything everybody would have said. I will pass it back on to Danielle to offer the closing remarks.
Thank you, Elena, and a huge thank you to our presenters. I think this was an excellent hour. If you did enjoy, I would love to see some hearts, some applause, some reactions. We got some reactions in the chat, which is really helpful. Again, really useful information. So we will be sure to share the recording by the end of the week, as well as the one pager and just some keywords for me. And it was so interesting to have been part of, well, to listen to these presenters and then also reflect on our session that we would have had on high level engagement, because some of the keywords are very similar. The power of collaboration, the need for us to consider different approaches when we're communicating on social media. Same thing when we want to engage with high level policymakers, being mindful of who our audience is, social listening, youth support. Amy did an excellent presentation on just showing you the power youth can have once given the support, resources, mentoring, etc. And the need for us to be strategic. So those are some of my keywords, and keen to hear your thoughts. If you have any feedback for us, let us know. We have some more capacity building sessions happening over the course of the year. So looking forward to seeing you at those. Thank you so much for attending. Again, a huge thank you to our moderator, Elena Gomes, and of course to all of our presenters, Sheena, Abby, and Amy. Thank you all so much for coming, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care. And if I could ask our presenters to stay on for a few moments. Thank you. That's great, Barry. Great to hear.